Right.
Roar.
So, well, hello, welcome to Quad-Trilogy, a podcast.
12 Angry Films.
I mean, is that better?
I mean, we'll think about it.
Okay.
Do we have to
Welcome
give it
to
a name
Quad-Trilogy
Dan, you'll already know from the title of the YouTube video.
/ 12 Angry Films.
Welcome to Look Below for the name of the episode.
This is a podcast that we're doing instead of because I mean, in the last episode that went up a few days ago, if you listen to the end, you heard us already rate all the Marvel films. There's no point doing a podcast, so we're doing Quad-Trilogy, where we try and find a trilogy that's better than the Star Wars original trilogy. It's basically the premise. So we've each selected a trilogy.
Oh, so it is a competition then?
It's not really a competition. We're working together. If we find one that's better than Star Wars, we win.
It's
We all win.
cooperative, but we've each put forth the
We should have
champion.
told me this. I would have picked the Vengeance trilogy, and then I would have definitely have been.
Okay, so the rule is, it can be a big franchise, but you're only allowed to pick the first 3 films in it. So you can't pick Rocky 4, Rocky 5, and Rocky Balboa. It's got to be the first 3. And no thematic trilogies, so it has to be the same characters, a continuing narrative. Them's the rules.
And no made-up trilogies that
Yeah.
you've just decided exist.
Okay. So the first trilogy is the what's it called? The Man with No Name trilogy.
It's got a few. Some people call it the Dollars trilogy, Man with No Name.
So the Spaghetti Western trilogy.
Spaghetti Western trilogy works, yeah.
So the first episode will be a Fistful of Dollars. The second episode will be the one that's gonna win. I mean, let's be honest. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. The third episode is going to be the start of the Godfather trilogy, starting with the titular Godfather. And
Part 1. Godfather Part 1.
It's not the name of the film. It's called the Godfather. And the fourth
Star Wars.
the fourth trilogy, which secretly could win because it's pretty consistent, is the Indiana Jones trilogy,
I mean,
starting with the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
sadly we're missing off the best one.
Yeah. I mean, if we were doing Star Wars, we would stop before the bad ones. Okay. Yeah, that's
Shall I introduce the Fistful of Dollars?
That's the premise. We're doing the episode's called 12 Angry Films / Quad-Trilogy, a fistful of dollars. So we're gonna watch the film
Fistful of films.
and then talk about it and then give it a score, and then at the end of this odyssey, this podcast odyssey, we'll see if any of them are as good as Star Wars, which I don't know how high the Star Wars trilogy was.
Well, what's the net total?
I'm guessing it's pretty
Out
high.
of 90, no, out of 120.
Right, let me just do some
It's
maths.
40 times 3, right?
That is 40 times 3.
Thank
correct.
you, Ethan.
38 plus.
A-level math.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So it was 34 for the original, and then 38, and then 28. So 34 plus 38 plus 28 is 100. Can anything beat 100?
Oh, that should be like, we should work that into the name because it's way better than. That's a way better idea than 12 Angry Films.
100 angry
No,
films.
how about 12 Angry Films and 3 of them could be 100? That's a good. Don't you think?
I think we should call it Quad-Trilogy / 12 Angry Films. That's the official name of this
No,
podcast.
we could do the Birdman thing of having an official name and then in brackets or.
We'll do the
12 Angry
Sergio
Films.
Leone thing where we just invent different names for the podcast every week.
I'll tell you what, after we've watched this, I'll have a look and make sure that I've got all the names right because that's just hilarious. 3
Anyway.
names for one film.
Here goes a fistful of dollars. Enjoy.
Do I still know?
Apparently not.
No, Ethan. Alright, do an intro for the film.
Yeah, so as Harry said, this is the first of the Man with No Name trilogy. It goes by other names. It's loosely inspired by an Akira Kurosawa classic called Yojimbo, which is about it's about a town which is contested over 2 rival families, and that's all I'll go into for now. That'll do it.
Alright, we're back from watching A Fistful of Dollars.
Sure, it's not dynamite.
I don't know. Might be for a few dollars more.
There was some dynamite that he did hold in a fist once, so
Should have been called A Fistful of
Foreshadowing.
Gold. Who knows? Right. So Ethan. I was gonna say, why did you pick it, BJ? I mean, were we really doing that? It was picked. It was kind of suggested by you, but it's not your pick.
Yeah, well, I picked it because I do like this film quite a lot, but I don't like it nearly as much as I do the other two. And I wanted to kind of pick this trilogy as a double whammy because it means that I can show you two of my all-time favourite films, one of which is probably, well, I say probably my favourite. Not it isn't anymore, but it's definitely a close second. So it means I can, it means I can pick other films by final media, which is good. But no, I
think every trilogy has its weak point. Apart from Lord of the Rings, and this is probably
I mean, it has a weaker, but I wouldn't say it's like a weak point. I still think this is like a good first effort.
Yeah, I do as well. I think if it's going to beat Return of the Jedi, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but this is about as good as Return of the Jedi for me. So I guess we'll find out.
Yeah,
Oh, it's better than that for me. But I think I was the one that rated Return of the Jedi the lowest. So
Okay.
yeah.
What did you guys like about Fistful of Dollars?
I won't talk first because I'm quite intrigued to hear what you guys have to say about it. Being new to the spaghetti westerns and that genre of film.
I mean,
it's spaghetti because it's made by Italians.
Yeah.
So
I can't tell if you're making a joke now. That's genuinely why they're called spaghetti westerns.
I didn't know that.
Nor did I.
That's
just something I was
Yeah,
hearing
no.
and then viewed like
Exactly.
saying. So
Cheaply made westerns designed to sort of, I don't know, I guess. No, that's probably the wrong word to use. But yeah, definitely cheaply made, not even done in America, to be honest. Set out in the desert in Spain, try and emulate that sort of area. So yeah, no, they were very, very cheap. And yeah, I think you can tell from the way they were made as well.
Was this one though? Did this one have more of a budget than others, or?
I reckon they. No, I wouldn't have said so. I think it. So this was the first spaghetti western. I'm pretty sure. I think. And the weird thing is that I often get into argument with my dad because he says that this is the spaghetti western trilogy, and if a film is spaghetti western, it has to be one of these three films, which it isn't true because there are many other spaghetti westerns, and they were all kind of made around this time. But the main ones were done by Sergio Leone, and I think as he got on in his career, you can definitely tell that his films have a bit more of an epic sort of ambitious approach. I mean, you've seen Once Upon a Time in the West, that's one of his later films, and you can definitely tell with the run length that it's definitely a more ambitious project.
He's got a budget.
Yeah, of course. And this is kind of like, anyway, it is cheap, and definitely, I think especially when it comes to syncing up the dialogue and
the sound effects.
Yeah, but I mean, making it look like the dialogue is synced with the actors talking, I think it's done a lot better in his later films than in this being like, I think it's a second film. I think he only made 7 films in his life, 6 of which are part of 2 trilogies, and one of which was just a random debut, which I can't remember the title of, and I haven't seen it. So, yeah, so there's that, and then I think he immediately went into this one straight away with Clint Eastwood in the main role. I liked him so much, he made 2 other films with him as well.
How was the critical and fan reaction to this film?
I think it was a pretty big hit. Yeah. I'd say I think his 2 most popular films are The Good, the Bad, and Ugly, and Once Upon a Time in the West. With Once Upon a Time in America, I think also being considered like a general masterpiece by most people, which I think it is as well. But yeah, I Fistful of Dollars was I think immediately a hit. I think people over in America really, really liked it, and sort of because up until this point, most westerns have been kind of the John Wayne. I mean, it was a Hollywood. They were Hollywood blockbusters at the time, The Searchers and Rio Bravo and all that. I mean, now they look really crap. Don't get me wrong, they're very, very dated. I mean, I'd even say that this is quite dated at times as well. But yeah, no, I mean, it spawned like a following, and people immediately fell in love with the kind of style of Western that Leone went, and his influence has been felt for so long after that. I mean, the way he kind of uses extreme close-ups to build tension. He always picks actors with just fantastic eyes and faces to kind of hold that part of his films together, and that's definitely been used later on as well.
Although I still feel from the bits of the good and bad and the ugly that I've seen, there's just a bit where there is a zoom up on the face.
Yeah,
it just makes me laugh.
I never understood that. Why do you find... Because there's a part in this film, and I can't remember where it is, but there was a zoom, and you laughed as well. I was like, that was like a well done zoom. That was like...
Zooms are quite comical.
Yeah, there's just something comical about zooms.
Okay, alright.
I think
it's the zoom on the stone, isn't it? When he goes to pick it up. When he goes to drop it, I mean.
It's the quick zooms, I think. Because like a slow zooming in, that builds tension. I guess the idea of the quick one is like some sort of woof. But it just comes across as, this is a bit of a dated film method, which I think that's why I find
it is also used
enough.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like it's how those tense standoffs, the Mexican ones, are sort of introduced. It's just the quick zoom to everyone's face.
Yeah.
I think it holds up though, even though you could argue that it's a bit outdated in that sense.
There's also, well, among other things, I think probably one of, if not the best thing about most of his films aren't even anything that Sergio Leone does, but it's the composer that he hires to come in and make the soundtrack. Because I think in this film the soundtrack's fantastic, and it's not even as good as it can be. I mean, you go to the Ecstasy of Gold, it's just a brilliant piece of music, and a lot of the music he has later on in his career kind of makes the films, and it's like, I remember when we were talking about The Empire Strikes Back, and I briefly mentioned how the reason I go back and watch certain scenes from my favourite films and stuff like that, and watch them on loop over and over again, is not only because of what's happening visually, but because of the music. And I really like the track. It's the asteroid field I was talking about particularly.
Yeah, same.
But there are scenes from, not this one in particular, because I've not seen this one that many times, but the second and third one that I've gone back and watched like an infinite amount of times, because I love the music and I just love the scene. And it's also because I think For Fewer Is More is probably the first film I ever remember watching, to be honest, with my dad. And just these films, so similarly how Age of Mythology is a staple of your childhood, these three films are definitely kind of like, they've shaped the way that I look at films and how, and what I look for in them for me to like them. So yeah, music's definitely a contributing factor. And it anyway, I was going to talk about the music in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. We haven't even watched that, so I'll save that until then. But yeah, music's brilliant, and it's so again, I mean, it goes with the fact that the film is made so cheaply. You could tell that the music is, I mean, it's just like, I mean, most of it is just like a whip crashing, and yeah, and I think
It's like different variants on like a single theme.
yeah, I believe so. And I think my old chemistry teacher once told me that they had to hire, like, actually no, this is more for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but I'll mention it briefly now. In the that part of the main theme, they had to use actual guys to do the chorus for it, because they didn't like have enough money to get actual instruments and like acquire it and stuff like that. So yeah, no, it just adds to how. And again, like going back to my EPQ, I focused on how not having a budget kind of like increases your ability to be resourceful and kind of not focus so much on having like money as to rely on money as a source of kind of filmmaking, but as your own imagination and just thinking about well-written dialogue and stuff like that. And I definitely feel like this director, with the fact that he didn't have very much money, he was able to kind of think on his feet and think, what original, unique ways that I can come up with, putting a scene together and stuff like that. And I just don't think it was really done before this. Like, I've already mentioned this whole spaghetti western. I mean, it was so kind of new and groundbreaking that it spawned its own kind of name, the spaghetti westerns.
Yeah. I think that's why I kind of like didn't really enjoy this film, because a lot of westerns, like the John Wayne ones, are long, they're overproduced, and ultimately they're quite boring.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like the gritty version. It's like it's shorter, it's darker. Darker. I mean, some of the violence now is a bit dated, because obviously they didn't have many blood effects because they're more money and whenever the film was released. But like it's a lot darker in terms of its like themes. It's cooler. Like Clint Eastwood is just a very cool guy, and his one character trait is cool. I'm okay with this.
The other one is cowboy.
Yeah, he's a cool cowboy.
No, he has the two defining character traits, which they tell you in the film, which is not only is he really quick on the gun, he's also super intelligent.
And he wears a poncho.
He does work.
Yeah.
I think that becomes one of his personality traits, to be fair.
Yeah, no, there's
It's the closest he gets to showing emotion is just whipping the thing around.
I really like the fact that it's just this like nameless guy. I mean, he's called Joe, but I guess as you can tell me, he's
someone
different.
says Joe at him. I don't think they know his name.
He's called Gringo and Americano as well.
Yeah,
exactly. I think I can't remember how he gets his name from Fear as well, but in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I remember that he especially gets assigned that name by Tuco, who just calls him Blondie because he can't think of anything more imaginative, and he never finds out his actual name. I just don't think he really has one. So he has like various nicknames depending on who's speaking to him and stuff.
I can't believe Tuco from Breaking Bad is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Oh, Tuco's so good.
The fact that it's just the film is essentially this guy strolls up in a comically small town with about 20 people, 9 of which are in one gang, 9 of which are in another gang. They're about 5 meters apart. I just like it's. I mean, I kept saying it by a video game, but it is kind of like this. It's a very simple tale, where you could expect it, like in a game, you'd be the character, like the main character.
But
who
it's
is
better because you aren't playing the guy, because
Yeah.
then he's way like more serious and like focused and like way cooler. And if you were just the John Marston controlling him, you would do the crab, you know, everywhere. Everything would be like a half an hour long mission. And you'd be like, oh.
This one felt more to me like Fallout New Vegas. I can imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
this sort of
Also, like a
mission.
Bethesda game, like it's like an open world where you come into a town. There's these like characters who are like, oh, we've been rivals for years, and they live like 5 minutes, like about a minute apart. And they could have just gone like, and like he essentially triggers all the action in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that the MacGuffin is literally like a woman, like who has like little to no dialogue. She is essentially a thing that needs to be taken away from one character and then given to someone else. Like it's bare bones and it's simple, but it's done really well and it's still enjoyable. Even if I mean from what Ethan says, I'm looking forward to the next two. I don't know if they're going to get more complex, but they might get more cool, which is always good because this is also very cool.
Yeah, I mean, especially, I think for Furismore is a good halfway point in terms of like budget and I've also ambition. But the good, the bad, and the ugly is like it's such an epic film. Like it's just monumental in scale and the journey that the characters take. Because it's, I won't go into the plot too much, but essentially what it is it's about three men looking for buried treasure. And it's all of them trying to get to that destination before the other ones, and it's like it's almost a quest. I'd literally say it's like an odyssey because they start from one place and they almost. I mean, you don't know where they go or anything like that, but it definitely feels like they travel across America through different landscapes. I mean, I guess different landscapes, all variations on the desert thing, of course, but different areas, and they get to.
Do they go to Dusty Desert? This is the random cut, and then you just got Clint Eastwood with Elise in his arms. Just this weird cartoon woman.
If you press R2, there's an energy shell. Yeah. But no, you should. I hope if you like this one, then I think you will definitely like the other two because, well, I like them more. So I just imagine that you will as well. And so yeah. In fact, what I'd love is for there to be like a video game. Like it could be modern. Like it could be like a COD game, right? Whenever you're down on ammo, you just shout "Hallelujah!" and you turn around and the guy just like throws to you another gun.
While laughing.
What's it? Elizabeth in
Bioshock. Just get a mod that just turns out to Rubio.
He just laughs for the night.
She only throws you the rifle. She only throws you
Only
the
throws you
rifle.
the rifle, and like just whenever you shoot someone, you just hear the laugh. I'd play that for a beat at least.
It's weird seeing like an old film that influenced a lot because, like, obviously the Back to the Future thing, which
I mean, you know why I said that like earlier? It's because you didn't realise.
No, it didn't.
That part from Back to the Future, it literally was like a literal homage to a Fistful.
I seriously had no idea.
No. I mean, in that film, he literally calls himself Clint Eastwood because he goes to the past and no one knows who Clint Eastwood is then. So he just says, "Hey, I'm Clint
It's been
Eastwood."
a very long time since I've seen that film, and I don't think I've seen all of it. But we're not doing Back to the Future trilogy.
Wow.
I mean, we could.
Well, it's not my choice. I've already picked this one, haven't I?
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I'll chime in just quickly. I think it's really good. As Harry said, it's simple, and I think that really works in its favour. Because although Ethan, brought up, it works on a minimum budget, just because I think practical effects are so uncommon nowadays, it's got like such a realism to it now. Looking at it, like even though you could say like I don't know whatever 2017 film that comes out that has like I don't know 4 supercomputers worth of CGI put into it, like there will always be some level of it's trying to look real, whereas the wooden barrels and shit that are in this film, they're like, yeah, that happens. They just hired 2 people and then crushed them to death with the fucking Donkey Kong-esque barrel of death.
I mean, there's a slight weakness with those bits being that some of the deaths just seem like when you're doing GCSE drama and
Yeah,
make as over the top death as you
I
can.
kind
just
of like
screeching.
that. Though.
It's endearing. It's endearing,
Do
though.
a backflip, and then just
Yeah.
collapse with your mouth gaping.
I think that is part of the charm that you can tell that like the punches are like overacted and have like shitty sound effects over them.
It's like Star Wars is like that. I mean, it is a space western, as we know.
Star Wars, I think it has a bit more like special effect to it for the time. Like
it's a lot of people going they're falling off things in ridiculous ways.
I don't know. I guess there's something better when it's like a stormtrooper being comical.
Rather than a Mexican.
Well, also Star Wars is
it's in a different galaxy.
Oh yeah. So this would have been like
mild threat.
Characters are in danger.
Whereas I think because this is trying to be like this kind of gritty western, whereas Star Wars is this kind of farce in space.
I think even the idea of western, even though it is like we say like gritty and like dusty and cool, I think there is some sort of like almost like a weird like childish idea of just playing as a cowboy, you know, that is part of the appeal.
I guess that's what's in
you know,
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids. That kind of played more into that. Side.
That's probably a much more fun film as well than this one. I would say Torch. It definitely is. Well, because in Butch Cassidy, we won't go on about that too much. But in Butch Cassidy, there's definitely like a because there's two of them for starters, they can sort of bounce off of each other quite nicely.
So it kind of feels, I guess, more in place when you're those joking moments. Whereas this one, where it's like this kind of serious standoff, and then
I feel like it does
someone
have
makes
its
this very
serious
impassioned
moments,
speech
though.
of your murderous unit. They didn't have any guns, and they just spent the next minute just dying on stage.
I don't know about that.
I feel like it brings the seriousness, like with the dialogue with Clint is like really good.
Yeah. I think the dialogue.
Like when he's like walking towards them at the end, you know, that's where it.
Really I mean, it's the fact. It's fact. And I was going to talk about this a minute. I know. This is pretty much like something I always bring up, but I just think it's shot so well as well. I think from the opening that you get when I think it starts with the camera looking at the ground of like some sort of rocky kind of pebbly area, and Cleaver kind of walks across, and he goes to some like well to fill up. And the camera pans up, and you get this fantastic view of the Spanish desert, and it just looks absolutely incredible. And there's a part a bit later on where I think one of the Rojos are on like a balcony, and he's walking off as well. It's just great. And what you were just mentioning earlier, when the dynamite sets off behind that house, and he comes off out of the what do you call it? I guess the smoke, if anything, and he just kind of appears in the distance, and I think it gets the serious tone right in places, especially in the moments where they're kind of all looking at each other, waiting for the first to make a move.
The machine gun.
Oh, I don't even think that's bad.
It's just
it's
played like a comedy.
Okay. I think it's funny because you could clearly tell that they haven't been shot and they're just falling off their horses. That's fair enough.
But
We're
gonna let you in on a secret. No one actually gets shot when they make a film.
I reckon a few horses died.
Well,
Let's be honest.
I mean, it's just the way that it like you see people perfectly fine, and then you just cut to like him pulling a weird face, going and then just they fall, and then just do that another 10, 12 times, kind of think that you're done, and we do it again. It's just.
I think any comedy is kind of unintentional, and it's more a sign of age than a sign of quality.
Yeah,
the filmmaking.
There's sort of, I don't know.
I mean,
jarring moments.
Yeah, I personally, I don't really have a problem with that kind of thing. I actually quite enjoy it, because otherwise, it would just be a lot of the same song and Clint Eastwood walking around.
I think it gains a lot though from like being like practical, because just the way that the sort of the stunts, I'm going to call them in like really lame quotation marks, that Clint Eastwood does, and I assume it's him because they're so easy, like anyone could do them.
Yeah.
But like the fact that they're so easy, like when he just is on a horse and all he does is he just grabs hold of something, or all he does is just climb over a brick wall. Like it seems like, you know, lame in comparison, like, oh, you know, we go and watch superhero films today and they're so over the top and ridiculous and almost more well choreographed, obviously. But I think it gains something from being so small in scope and so like grounded that it is way easier to like believe and get invested.
Yeah. I mean, people think of Clint Eastwood as some sort of like invincible machine, but he's just a man who can get beaten up quite easily.
I think it does a really good job of like, you know, towing that line of like he's a badass, but he's not like a god, you know. He's not like the main character of In Another World with my smartphone.
That is very true. I also quite like the fact that at the very, very beginning you do get to see this man with his son, and that ends up becoming quite important later on as well. I think they tackle that issue quite early.
There's a lot of like reintroducing subtle things that kind of come up again, which I like. It's a very clever.
We also
For a film that's like probably it's more I think it's fair to say it's made in English as its second language, in terms of it's made by Italians, written by Italians with Italian speakers. It's a very well written film. It translates well.
We also love the guy who works at the bar as well. Can't remember his name.
I know, like we were saying, like the funny moments. Like I think he is like a good light character. That like balances out the story quite well.
He's a good kind of Dr. Watson.
He's like the realist counter to this like over the top like cowboy archetype. It's great.
I guess what we know as the kind of modern cowboy, a lot of that comes from Clint Eastwood here. Like
he was establishing it like when he I don't know wore the cowboy hat, like that was just a hat back then, but now because he wore it, it's a cowboy hat.
Yeah, but he's a lot cooler than John Wayne, and I'm glad he exists, because otherwise we wouldn't have every Coen brothers. Alright,
that's so good.
Should we wrap up?
Yeah, we can do. I suppose I can go first, but while I'm speaking,
how close is it going to get to 100?
Oh, it won't be anywhere near, I'd say. I think if any of these, it's difficult to say, because in the past, the people that I've watched, especially the last two with, they tend to like Perfido's a lot more than the Good, the Bad, no. I think it's because they go into the Good, the Bad, the Ugly, expecting something incredible. So they know it's like the 9th best film of all time or whatever, and it doesn't quite get there for them. Whereas Perfido's more surpasses their expectations.
What I imagine is the best two scenes from it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's going to be a disappointment for me.
I think if you say this is the worst one and it can beat Return of the Jedi, that's a good early sign. So
yes, I think it can beat Return of the Jedi. I'm not 100% sure, but it's definitely, in my opinion anyway, the least good of the three. So I'll round it off by saying one quick thing.
Sure.
Another way in which it's because I think especially with his other trilogy of films, which kind of tracked America at different stages in its evolution. I always Leone also always tried to kind of show how. Because all the John Wayne we're shitting on John Wayne quite a lot here, but all the John Wayne films were always quite. I mean, they were always really kind of tame, and they were sort of like they weren't violent at all or anything like that. And he kind of comes along and shows that actually America was sort of built on violence and greed and conflict. And I think he came along and did a really good job making it a bit more like you said, gritty. Gritty's a really good word for the time anyway. So I originally going into this, I thought I'd give it a 7, but it's a lot better than I remember it. So I think I'm going to give it a low 8 out of 10, with the other two definitely being 10s. I'll just say in advance.
I like that it's a western that's not about like massacring indigenous people. Like a lot of them are. I think that's kind of like it's
massacring Mexicans.
Yeah, but it's kind of. It's like an international kind of production. It's not like American idolizing, because I think a lot of kind of like Western stuff can end up being idolizing a time where things are pretty shit and a lot of bad stuff happened, and it's kind of like it's been immortalized. And I like stuff that deconstructs it, but I also like stuff like this, which is kind of escapism, which kind of captures like it's just a fun film to watch, and I enjoyed it. I don't think it's perfect. I think it shows its age a little bit. Perhaps it's simple and that makes it enjoyable. Perhaps it's a little bit too simple, and that's pretty my only criticism. Very minor one, and I'm probably going to give it a 7 as well. I have seen this film twice, and
Did you like it more the second time?
I did like it more the second time because I didn't have people screaming in the background. Dan, I know you listen to this.
Smash that like button. It's the only time we've ever said that. I'll go next. Yeah, I think Harry put the nail on the head when he said simple, but I think I like that a lot more. And although, you've seen films that pick, red line, just throw as much shit at the wall and eventually you have a massive shit covered wall and it's great. But But this, like, being so well contained and like such a well balanced story, like it really just ramps up tension and like makes you invested in you know, seeing the Rujos and the Braxters, you know, die with spitting blood, and then like, oh my god, I want that to happen, and then it happens. Yes. Oh my god, this is how you make a film. You do it.
It's probably the first time I've picked where things should happen that you expect them to. And it's satisfying, right?
Yeah, but there are also a good amount.
The guy.
It does also like do a few amount of twists and turns. So like when he got captured, I was like, oh, that's actually quite surprising. You know, he's been set up as like a badass this whole time.
Also, when the woman turned out to not be the wife of the fucking Rojo main guy.
Yeah,
That's another.
I think so. Anyway, yeah, it works really well to be self-contained. As I said, you know, it has a lot of strong qualities in its dialogue and in the characters being simple, but you know, likable, empathetic, and strong. I think it was, you know, the base mark of Star Wars was that it was. I think its understated strength is its simplicity, in that it was just the, you know, this story of can we blow up a big danger egg, you know. Stole that joke from Sharp and Sit Down, I'm sorry. And yeah, I think I really like it. I like it a lot more than I thought I would like, you know, older films. Has been the trend, you know, apart from, you know, a few exceptions. And so I think one final thing I'll say, you know, it's very well paced, you know, and despite it being old, I think, you know, it's very, very tight, very, very enjoyable to watch, and it maps the setting really well. I think you get a really good sense of place, of just this sort of weird, San Miguel?
San Miguel.
Yeah, this sort of town, you know, it really builds up a character in a space, like, really intelligently, like, through just the backgrounds and through the spacing of things. And so I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10, and I think this is a really strong start for this trilogy, because it only has to get better than 2 9s. So, and I also prefer when things get better rather than when things get worse.
Excellent.
So we'll see.
It's funny.
I'm really pleasantly surprised that you gave this film what will actually be a higher score than me, because I said a lower 8. So that's great.
Yeah.
So I'd say I'm a high 7, because I think this film has a great many good things going for it, and also I have my qualms with certain moments. But yes, yeah. And I agree with Tony when he says it's such a great like feeling of this town that is created, the sort of where no one does any work except the coffin maker who has a flourishing business. It's just such a cool idea.
There's such a funny line, which is they see the what is it, a gravestone. They're like, you just desecrating the only grave that's of a person that died of pneumonia in this town. It's like, oh man, you know, it brings the comedy at the right moment. You know, it's very well balanced.
Yeah.
So I got 30. 2 better than Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
So it looks good, because this is the weakest of this trilogy. I think Indy's weakest is the second outing. Godfather's weakest is the third outing. And Lord of the Rings, arguably the second, but
I'd argue first, but
I'd argue
you hate me
third.
for that.
So
I'd argue second.
Well, we'll see what
I think
the statistics say.
it's pretty consistently great. So
Yeah.
Oh, the fact we can't agree on which one is worst, I think.
yeah, and even though I say it's worse, it's the same rating as the other two. We've got a lot to look at. I like this podcast. It's very simple.
Yeah.
It's just us watching good
Oh
films.
man, wait.
Just scrap the media format. Just make good films, and then we'll enjoy them.
Ethan,
Yeah.
you know why this film was good?
Go on.
Because its transmissions bring submissions as you mold to the unreal, and Mad Boy grips the microphone with a fistful of dollars.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I was up and waiting.
Harry,
on
where
that.
was your
Please,
letdown
$5.
reference in this episode?
Oh yeah.
Thanks for reminding me. Let down.